Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here, checking in on the crypto markets. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin, Litecoin, seeing some good action here today, ETH, Bitcoin Cash, and a few other names here as we check in on these markets, seeing a little bit of bounce action here. And so just recapping here on my last video, I was looking for a little bit of a bounce here. We saw this is the 1 hour view. At the time we were in this range right here. I did take a small entry for a bounce, and it wasn't much of a bounce. I mean, it was pretty weak. It still is. We are finding some support. We'll get into that here shortly. Good news, but it wasn't much of a bounce. So hitting that 7,800 really was my first target, just shy of 7,900. Scaled out of some there, moved the rest to break even at that point. That ultimately was stopped out at break even. So it was a small winner, but not a whole lot. And after that was just kind of sitting tight here. However, coming into today, we are seeing some positive action. So I did enter a few more trades here today, one of them being Litecoin. We'll look at that here shortly, but let's take a big picture look at Bitcoin first here. Technically, still looking negative in a downtrend. You can see here, we've got a high, the low here, a lower high, a new lower low, still trending lower, still below the key moving averages that I watched, the 10 EMA and the 22 EMA. So on a closing basis, price is still below those, still trending lower. The sell side volume is still much higher than any buy side volume at this point. So seeing if we can find some support here, looking at the key levels, right now we're seeing a little bit of support coming in the mid 7,400s. Below that, 7,200 is the next level to be watching, and then the psychological round number 7,000 is the next level. So there's certainly several levels of support below that, but as long as prices remain below these key moving averages, I'm going to remain cautious. Got to remain a little bit on the defensive here. Looking at the 4 hour view, you can see the 10 EMA is still trending lower. It's still below the 22 after that bearish crossover here, which was really the confirmation that the trend was starting to shift again. But as I said, we're starting to see some support coming in here. So going back to the 1 hour view, first level that I'm watching on the way up, I'd like to see it reclaim that 78.50 level, kind of getting back above that range there. And then of course 8K, psychological round number, also a little bit of resistance here on the way up. That first bounce attempt failed at 8K. And then below that, above that, same numbers I've been talking about, 8,200, and then you're looking way back here, but one step at a time. So if we can get over that 78.50 and then back over 8K, that'll be positive, potentially start to set a little bit of a support zone, but there's still plenty of time left. It's way too early to tell that that's the low. The trend has changed because, like I said, in the big picture on the daily chart, still very much looking like a downtrend. And if we go to the weekly here, it's still a red week. Good to see a red week finally, in my opinion, but it's still a red week and we're not sure where that finally will land when it's all said and done. So just something to keep in mind. I'm looking very short term at this point. And again, when I mention trades and bounce trades and all that, I'm strictly talking about my trading accounts. I'm not talking about anything that I have locked away in a hard wallet or any kind of long-term positions. This is strictly from the day trading or the swing trading perspective. So I've seen some of the comments here. People are talking about how do you get in and out of your ledger or your wallet so fast, and I don't. And that's the thing. That's two separate things, and I will absolutely approach them differently in terms of timing and strategy and so forth. So just keep that in mind when I'm kind of going over some of these charts. Now looking at some of the alts that are popping here, Litecoin, let's take a look at that one first. I'm going to look at Litecoin BTC here. That one was showing a lot of relative strength versus Bitcoin here on this latest pullback. We were looking at this chart. We were talking about it here today on the Slack group. Some of you guys jumped on this here with me. It was breaking out here early. I was in Tether and cash and US dollars on my exchanges. So while I was watching the price action on the BTC side, my orders were going to be filled from the dollar side. And so the level I was watching for Litecoin was that 105 level. So if we go to the USD side here, I was looking for 105 to be filled and 105.50 to be exact. Above that I was in, and certainly that was filled here on this nice little pop that we saw here. And that was really this support here, which became resistance. Let me highlight that for you guys. Here we go. Back at the end of May here on May 31st, you see that little bounce. We had that rollover, finally cut right through, and you can see here over the last several days, that was just really the level of resistance on the way up, and getting back above that here today also gets it back over some of these moving averages on that 4-hour time frame. So that was the level I was watching. If we zoom in here a little bit more, you can see how clear that was here at that 105 level. So 105.50 was my entry point here. That's the level I was looking for, and it did bounce. I went in a little bit heavier on this position than some of the other trades I took today, just because this was much more bullish. It's got some fundamental factors to it, and so I wanted to take advantage of that. Now, to be fair and transparent here, I did scale out of half of my position here at the 111 range, and just going to let the rest ride. If it does pull back here a little bit, then I may look to add back in on a pullback. But the target I'm looking for here for the trade, that 115 is really my first target on the way up. That's going to coincide with some of this resistance back here. And then at that point, you're looking at, the 120s. Above that, it might really start to get going here. But with Bitcoin kind of being under pressure, the downtrend, I'm going to remain cautious. But the thing to note on Litecoin, which was really positive about it, is it found support at the 22 EMA on the way up. And this has been a level of support here in the past. You can see here, this was the moving averages. Here, it got back above it after this little bit of a downtrend. And in the past, that's been a level to be watching. And we saw that show up again. It did wick under it, but on a closing basis on the daily chart, found support here the prior 2 days. And so it was looking positive from that perspective. I didn't want to jump the gun. I was going to wait until it showed some confirmation to the upside by getting back over that 105 level, which it did obviously today. And so it's looking good. Of course, it's got the halving coming up. It's going to get a lot more attention here in the coming month. And so definitely one I'm watching from a bigger time frame perspective, a little bit more of a swing trade. I'm going to see if Bitcoin can hold up here and even bounce a little bit and get back over 8K, then I think that's going to bode well for Litecoin and some of these other big cap names. So Litecoin is looking positive today. We'll see how it closes here. A little bit of time left here on the daily candle as I record this, but it will very likely, well, absolutely close in the green here. It's only about 15 minutes left as I record this. So LTC on fire today, looking good, popping. I'd like to see it get back over that 115 level and going from there. Let's look at ETH. Looking at ETH BTC here. I'm going to go to Binance here first. Continues to hold up above that support level I mentioned in my last video. Looking positive, starting to curl up a little bit, turning the corner there. Nice to see that, especially as Bitcoin is finding a little bit of support, a little bit of footing here. We'll see if it can continue higher and break above this downtrend and start outperforming BTC on the way up. Looking at it from the dollar pair. I'm going to go to the Coinbase exchange here. And if we zoom in here on the 4-hour view, it is showing a little bit of momentum here as I record this. Hasn't quite cleared that resistance yet. I'm taking the same approach as I did on Litecoin. It's got to prove itself to me. Get over that little bit of level, that resistance, and then things will start to look positive from there. On ETH, on the USD pair, that's basically that 249 to 250 area. So getting back over that $250 mark would be very positive in the short run, as that will begin to signify a little bit of a turning of the trend. Again, similar. Didn't quite hold the 22 EMA, did undercut it, closed below it on one day. The last 2 days has closed above it, so that's looking positive. Getting back over that 250 again would be a start. And look at the big picture. I mean, it did pull back along with most of these other names, but in the big picture, I mean, it's not that bad. It's just kind of consolidating, holding up pretty well. Big support was really down here at that 230 mark, and as long as it stayed above that, things looked positive. It did test that level a couple of times here, but all in all, big picture is still looking good. I'd like to see it get back over that 270 level and start the next leg up. So ETH from both sides, the USD and the BTC pair, are still looking relatively well. XRP, one of the trades I entered today, it did pop, hit the alerts, but I did not chase it. And in fact, I decided to wait for a little bit of a pause, pull back, jumped in on the dip entry. This was one that I did enter from the USD side, so we'll go to that perspective here. And that was the pullback here. You saw the pullback right to the breakout point, a little bit of a wick, popped right over, held above these moving averages on a closing basis. And so that was my entry point. And it's retesting the highs from this morning, but all in all, still looking pretty positive. If you look at the 4-hour view, certainly turning the corner, clearing some resistance there, and so looking positive. On the way up, I'm looking for 44 cents as my first target on the way up. And then above that, this little window, it's pretty wide, but up to around 46 cents. You know, the big picture, it's still looking choppy. You're seeing a very clear downtrend, so I'm going to keep a tight leash on this one, right? You got this high, big low, pretty decent bounce, which made a lower high. Now you're getting a pretty good low being established here, but you got to be mindful that this could just run up, make another lower high, and then start turning south again. So I'm just going to trail it up. I'm going to book gains along the way and just see where it goes from here. I'm cautious right now because of these reversal trades are going against the trend. It's always better if you're just betting along with the trend and trading with the trend, but these are some reversal trades. They're certainly good for some nice little bounces, but I'm not going to go full force and say, hey, this is the beginning of a big uptrend until they prove themselves and until BTC can start to show a little bit of more strength to the upside. Looking at the total cryptocurrency market cap picture, you can see the broader trend is still heading upward, looking to see if we can set a higher low here. Overall, looking at coin market cap, it's registering just shy of $250 billion. Going to the BTC dominance, continues to drift lower, which is good for the alts. You can see after peaking here on May 13th, just over 60%, has just been drifting slightly lower as some of the other small cap, mid cap names have gained some share versus BTC, which is positive if you're looking to trade alts on the upside relative to Bitcoin. So just kind of drifting lower, not a huge change yet, but bodes well for the overall altcoin space. Looking at a few more names here real quick before we wrap this one up. BTC was another name we were looking at here today, popping nicely. If we go to the 4-hour view, this is a little bit of a, almost a cup and handle type pattern. It's a little bit deep, but that's the general pattern there. You can see this little handle here, and that was really what I was looking for, was that move against this range here on the upside, breaking that downtrend, and we saw that here today with some good volume. You can see the volume really started to come back in once it started to push higher. That's positive. I'd like to see this one close above this level. That's basically that 305, 310 level. Closing above that would be very positive on the daily chart. And then at that point, you're talking a breakout. And there's a couple of targets on the way up that I'm watching. 350 is the first one, and then closer to 380 on the way up. That'd be a very solid move for Zill. If you're going from current prices, you're talking about anywhere from 15 to 25% relative to Bitcoin. If we go to the USD pair for this guy, it's going to be a little bit different just because Bitcoin is in a general downtrend, but same general pattern. You've got this multiple attempt at this resistance level, pulling back, popping right back up to that level again here today, looking like it wants to break out of that 0.0234 level is what I'm watching. If it can break out here on the USD pair, your first resistance is going to be that last major swing high back here around that 0.027. Then above that, really has a lot of room to run, so I'll be mostly using the BTC pair as my guide when it comes to booking some gains on that guy if it can get going. Another name I'm still watching here is Bitcoin Cash. Relative to BTC, it's still below a key support resistance level here, and that's really the level I'm watching. I want to see it close above. It's had a few attempts at it. You saw a couple days back, it popped right through that at the end of May, gave it right back up when Bitcoin rolled over here yesterday, trying to pop through again, rejected once again. And so that's a significant level of resistance here over the last month or so. Definitely be one to be watching here on the way up. If it can begin holding above this level, that'd be positive, and then at that point I'd be looking for a little bit of a run to the swing high that we saw set back in April. And so Bitcoin versus BTC, or Bitcoin Cash versus BTC, is one that's on my radar right now. For those of you that are not familiar, I think most of you are because I talk about this quite often, but go into the Node Insiders alerts system on the automated watch list. Some of the other names pop in here. We looked at Ripple, Litecoin, some small cap names, Fuel, QKC, Link. Link was a strong name here today. Engine showing up on the list. Stellar, let's go take a look at that one because that one was showing some relative strength here versus BTC. So if we look at XLM, BTC, nice little pop here today. This is a chart I posted for the Node Insiders on the Slack group for those of you that are aware of that. And just nice support that it found here over the last few days, basically since the start of June relative to Bitcoin, and showing a little bit of bullish action here today in sympathy with XRP, which very often these two do trade similarly. There's many coins that kind of have that pairing with other names. XRP, XLM are a couple of names that I look at together, and you're seeing some volume coming in here today. So looking positive, not quite as good looking on the USD side, especially if you're looking at something like XRP. I think XRP is much stronger looking, but this one is looking positive here, also kind of pushing higher, breaking above near-term resistance, testing that right now. I'd like to see a little bit more volume coming in, but all in all, definitely one I'm keeping on my radar here. Let's go see what else. Oh, Link was the other one, real quick. Strong had a big wick today. Don't like to see that. Really sold off from that. What else did we got on the list here? Walton, just a bunch of smaller cap names. So nodeinsiders.com is where you can get that. You get the alerts, and of course, if you are a subscriber to this, you also get access to my video training course library on trading, risk management, technical analysis, strategy implementation, all that good stuff. And of course, you'll get an invite to our Slack group. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I appreciate you watching as always. We'll see how this weekend goes. Look out for a live stream here in the next day or so. I'll see if I can kick off the weekend with a live stream with you guys. So until next time, take care, everyone.